There are moments in every woman's life when she looks at herself and wonders, am I really blessed? Does God truly see me? And today, I want to speak straight into that question, into the heart of every woman who has carried burdens quietly, who has fought battles silently, and who has stood when everything in her wanted to fall. Because sometimes being blessed by God doesn't look like ease. Sometimes it looks like endurance. Sometimes it looks like tears that water the soil for tomorrow's joy. And before we go deeper, let me tell you why you need to stay through this entire message, because somewhere in these 8 signs, you will see yourself. Somewhere in these truths, you will discover that you are far more blessed, far more favored, and far more seen by God than you ever realized. And when you hear all 8, the pieces of your life will come together in a way that strengthens your faith and awakens your purpose. Sign number 1, you carry a quiet strength. Blessed women don't always roar. Sometimes they whisper, but their whisper carries heaven's authority. When everything around you shakes, yet something deep in you refuses to break, that is not personality, that is blessing. That is God holding you when life tries to drop you. Sign number 2, you bounce back from battles that were meant to destroy you. If you've ever walked through a valley that should have shattered you, yet somehow you came out wiser, stronger, even more compassionate, then you are blessed. Not because the battle was easy, but because God never left you in the middle of it. Sign number 3, your heart leans toward God even when you feel discouraged. You pray even when you're tired. You hope even when you're hurting. You stand even when you tremble. A woman whose heart turns toward God in weakness is a woman heaven calls blessed. Sign number 4, you pour out love even from a place of lack. Blessed women are givers. They don't give because they have everything. They give because they know God is their source. When you encourage, when you comfort, when you lift others despite your own pain, you reflect God in a powerful way. Sign number 5, you carry wisdom that didn't come from books. Blessed women learn from their scars. They hear God in silence. They discern things others overlook. If God has been teaching you through your tears, it's because He is shaping you for something greater. Sign number 6, you are resilient in seasons of waiting. Waiting is one of God's greatest classrooms. And a blessed woman doesn't rush ahead. She holds God's hand and trusts His timing. Her strength is not in what she receives, but in how she waits. Sign number 7, you protect your peace. A blessed woman understands the value of her spirit. She doesn't entertain chaos, gossip, or negativity. She chooses peace because she carries purpose. Sign number 8, you know you are nothing without God, and that is your power. The greatest sign of a blessed woman is not perfection but dependence. She knows her strength comes from above, and because of that, nothing in this world can truly defeat her. So today, if you recognized yourself in even one of these signs, let me tell you, you are far more blessed than you think, because God's hand is on you, His purpose is in you, and His love is wrapped around you. You see, one of the clearest signs that a woman is truly blessed by God is that she walks in her divine identity. And I want to speak directly to your heart today, because so many women have been wandering through life trying to measure themselves by what the world says, by what others think, or by the failures they've endured. But God doesn't measure you that way. He sees you differently. He sees a woman who has been fearfully and wonderfully made, crafted with purpose and destiny in mind. When you understand who you are in Him, you stop seeking validation from the crowd and start receiving affirmation from the Creator. That is the first mark of a woman blessed by God. She knows her worth is not in her achievements, her appearance, or her accolades, but in who God says she is. A blessed woman doesn't walk through life pretending to be perfect. She doesn't wear masks to make people like her or to hide her insecurities. No, she understands that her value comes from the one who created her. She recognizes that she is a daughter of the Most High, a vessel chosen for purpose, and that alone is enough. That confidence doesn't make her arrogant, it makes her strong. It gives her courage to face situations that would cripple others. and it equips her to shine even in the darkest of circumstances because she walks in the light of God's approval, not the fleeting praise of people. Now, I know life sometimes whispers lies, doesn't it? Life tries to convince you that you're too broken, too ordinary, too insignificant to matter. But a blessed woman hears a different voice, God's voice. And when she tunes into that divine voice, something supernatural begins to happen. She no longer compares herself to others. She no longer lives in fear of judgment or rejection. Instead, she embraces the truth that her identity is anchored in eternity. That realization changes everything. It transforms her decisions, her relationships, and even the way she handles adversity. Because when you know who you are in God, you begin to walk with authority. You begin to live without compromise. You begin to rise above the things that once held you down. And here is the engaging truth I want you to hear today. Understanding your divine identity isn't just for your benefit, it's contagious. When you walk in the confidence of who God made you to be, it impacts everyone around you. Your children, your family, your friends, even strangers notice the calmness, the strength, and the peace that radiates from someone who is rooted in God's identity. People are drawn to it because it's authentic, it's real, it's heaven touching earth. So if you feel small, if you feel overlooked, if you feel like life has boxed you in, remember this: a blessed woman doesn't need the world's approval. She has God's. And that alone empowers her to stand, to endure, to flourish, and to reflect His glory in every step she takes. Faith is one of the most remarkable marks of a woman blessed by God, and I want you to understand what this really means. You see, faith is not just believing when life is easy. Anyone can do that. Faith is believing when the storm is raging, when the circumstances are impossible, when the doctors report the bills or the heartbreak tells you it's over. That is the faith of a woman who is blessed. It is unshakable, unwavering, and unstoppable because it is anchored not in what she sees, but in who God is. And I want you to hear this today: when your faith is rooted in God, nothing, absolutely nothing, can steal your peace, your joy, or your hope. A blessed woman has a faith that moves mountains, but it doesn't move mountains because she is strong. It moves mountains because she trusts the one who is stronger than every obstacle. She understands that her God is not limited by time, by circumstances, or by human logic. She has learned that when she can't see the way forward, God still has the plan. She walks through life with a confidence that comes from knowing her steps are ordered, her path is protected, and her purpose is guaranteed. And that kind of faith doesn't just help her survive, it helps her thrive in the midst of chaos. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but my faith has been tested. I've prayed and nothing has changed. Listen carefully: unshakable faith is not measured by instant results. It is measured by endurance. It is faith that holds on when the natural response is to give up. It is faith that whispers, "God, I trust you," even when everything inside is screaming doubt. That is the kind of faith that transforms ordinary women into extraordinary vessels of God's blessing. That is the faith that allows her to stand in a crowd, smile in sorrow, and extend love in the face of rejection, all because she knows her God never fails. A blessed woman's faith also inspires others. People notice it even if they don't understand it. Her calmness in crisis, her patience in waiting, her unwavering hope, it is magnetic. They see that she does not collapse under pressure, and they wonder why. The answer is simple: it is not her strength. It is her faith, faith that is rooted in eternity, not in the temporary. Faith that believes God's promises are true, even when the evidence says otherwise. And here is the life-changing truth. I want you to embrace your faith as your fortress. It protects you from fear, from despair, and from the lies that the enemy tries to plant in your mind. When you hold fast to your faith, you walk in freedom, courage, and authority. You carry a light that cannot be dimmed, a hope that cannot be shaken, and a peace that surpasses every understanding. And when that faith stands firm through storms, it naturally produces something else, a remarkable quality that distinguishes a blessed woman, grace, under pressure. You see, It's one thing to have faith in calm waters, but it's an entirely different thing to reflect God's character when life is pulling you in every direction, when responsibilities pile up, and when people's expectations seem impossible to meet. A woman blessed by God doesn't crumble under pressure. Instead, she exudes a quiet strength, a calm confidence, a poise that can only come from the presence of God working in her life. Grace under pressure is not about being perfect, it's about being anchored. It's about knowing that no matter how chaotic circumstances become, God is still in control. A blessed woman doesn't lash out when things go wrong. She doesn't panic when doors close. She doesn't allow anxiety to rule her thoughts. Instead, she stops, breathes, and lets God's wisdom guide her response. And when she does this, others take notice. People are drawn to her presence because it radiates stability, peace, and hope. In a world that is constantly shaking, she becomes a living testimony that God's grace is sufficient. Think about it for a moment. Grace under pressure doesn't mean she ignores her pain. No, it means she acknowledges it, but she doesn't let it define her. She knows that trials are temporary, and they are designed not to break her, but to refine her. Every stressful situation, every critical moment becomes an opportunity for her to demonstrate the supernatural strength God has placed within her. And that strength is rooted in humility, in patience, and in her unshakable trust in God. When she speaks, her words build rather than tear down. When she acts, her actions inspire rather than discourage. She is a stabilizing force, not because she is flawless, but because God's power flows through her life. And here's the compelling truth: grace under pressure transforms influence into impact. The way she responds in difficult moments doesn't just affect her, it leaves an imprint on everyone around her. Her children learn resilience from her example. Her family sees the calm that comes from trusting God. Friends and colleagues feel the encouragement of her steady heart. A blessed woman demonstrates that God's favor is not only about blessings received, it's about character displayed, courage maintained, and peace carried, even when everything seems to be falling apart. The world will test her, life will push her limits, but grace under pressure becomes a shield that protects her heart and preserves her testimony. It allows her to navigate storms with dignity, to love in the midst of conflict, and to shine when darkness surrounds her. And the most extraordinary part is this: the more pressure she experiences, the more her grace becomes visible. The greater the trial, the greater the testimony. This is the hallmark of a woman who is truly blessed by God. And when a woman walks in grace under pressure, something beautiful begins to happen. She naturally becomes a vessel of strength and comfort to those around her. You see, God never blesses a woman to hoard His favor for herself. Every blessing, every ounce of courage, every measure of peace is meant to flow outward, to touch lives, and to be a channel of hope. A blessed woman recognizes that her life is not just about her own journey. It is about lifting others, encouraging hearts, and offering support when the world seems heavy. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you witnessed a woman standing firm, even when her own world is trembling, and yet offering a hand, a word, or a prayer for someone else? That is divine design. That is the mark of a woman who is blessed. Her strength is not measured by how much she can endure alone, but by how she empowers others while she endures. She becomes a sanctuary of peace, a refuge for the weary, and a light for those who have lost their way. And let me tell you this: becoming a vessel of strength doesn't mean life is easy. No, it often comes at a cost. It means she sacrifices her comfort, stretches herself beyond her limits, and chooses compassion over convenience. It means she listens when others want to speak praise, when others are too exhausted to pray, and bears burdens that are not even hers to carry, all because she understands that God's blessing is not just for her sake, but for the sake of His kingdom. A blessed woman knows how to comfort because she herself has been comforted. She understands pain and struggle, loss and disappointment, and yet she does not allow those experiences to embitter her heart. Instead, she turns them into a source of empathy, wisdom, and encouragement. Her words bring hope, her presence brings reassurance, and her actions demonstrate God's love in ways that are tangible, practical, and life-changing. And here is what makes this truly extraordinary. The strength and comfort she provides are not dependent on her own power. They come from the one who sustains her. When she feels weak, she relies on God. When she feels weary, she leans on Him. And when she reaches out to help someone else, she is not acting in her own strength. She is allowing God's power to flow through her. That is why her influence is lasting, why her encouragement resonates, and why her faith becomes a beacon in a world that desperately needs light. The blessed woman's life becomes a testimony, not just because of what she accomplishes, but because of how she touches hearts. People remember her not for what she had, but for what she gave. They feel her strength even when she struggles, and they sense her comfort even when she is hurting. This is the divine pattern. Blessing is meant to be shared, and a woman who carries strength and comfort in her spirit is a living demonstration of God's goodness and grace. And when a woman carries strength and comfort to others, she begins to recognize something remarkable. She sees God's hand in every part of her journey. She understands that nothing in her life is wasted, that every trial, every delay, every joy, and every sorrow is part of a greater plan designed by a loving Father. A blessed woman doesn't live in regret, nor does she dwell on what could have been. Instead, she looks back and sees God's fingerprints on every season, guiding her steps, shaping her character, and preparing her for the purpose He has called her to fulfill. You see, life can feel confusing. There are moments when we wonder why certain doors closed, why certain relationships ended, or why dreams were delayed. But a woman who is blessed by God begins to understand that there are no accidents in her story. Every encounter, every heartbreak, every victory, and even every failure has been orchestrated to teach her, refine her, and mold her into the woman God intended her to be. And when she grasps that truth, something incredible happens. She starts walking with confidence, courage, and clarity because she knows the author of her life has a perfect plan. A blessed woman doesn't compare her journey with anyone else's. She doesn't measure her life by what she sees around her because she has learned that God's timeline is not the world's timeline. She understands that waiting is not wasted time, that suffering can produce strength, and that every step, even the painful ones, can lead to blessing. She begins to see setbacks as set-ups, losses as lessons, and challenges as opportunities for God's glory to be revealed. Her eyes are open to the bigger picture, and her heart begins to rest in the knowledge that God is in control of every detail. And here is what makes this so powerful. A woman who sees God's hand in her journey no longer fears the future. She walks boldly, knowing that her past has prepared her, her present is guided by God, and her future is secure in His promises. She learns to rejoice in every season, even when it is difficult, because she recognizes that God is working all things together for her good. She celebrates victories, embraces growth, and treasures the lessons hidden in her struggles. Her life becomes a testimony not just because of what she experiences, but because of how she perceives it. People around her begin to see hope in her perspective, faith in her responses, and inspiration in her trust. She becomes a living example of what it means to follow God wholeheartedly, to trust Him not only in the easy moments, but in every twist and turn of the journey. And the extraordinary truth is this: a blessed woman who sees God's hand in her journey is unstoppable. She moves through life with purpose, walks with confidence, and stands with assurance because she knows that nothing is outside of God's control. Every step, every trial, every blessing is carefully woven into a tapestry that reveals His love, His faithfulness, and His plan for her life.